Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and we're going to talk about video games today. We're going to talk about Electronic Arts and some other companies teaming up with the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, to basically police gaming and gamers and gaming profiles to make sure that they get rid of all the Yahtzees from the gaming industry. And this, again, we always talk about the road to hell being paved with good intentions. On the surface, these sorts of initiatives sound good, right? You want to get rid of legitimately toxic people. You want to get rid of hate mongers in the gaming industry or the comic book industry or the entertainment industry. But what happens is you basically wind up purging a bunch of people who are not those things. And you have a lot of people who are labeled as being far-right extremists or awful people or racists or whatever it is. And they get caught up in these initiatives. And what it is an attempt to censor speech, to control an industry. And this is kind of what boiled down to with Gamergate, which is so weird because I thought Gamergate was over and done with. And I don't know, this almost seems like round two, right? Like Street Fighter, like round two. So we're having this conversation again, I think because it's an election year, about what kinds of people should be allowed in the gaming industry. And the short answer should be anybody should be allowed to play video games, right? But we have a lot of these platforms being controlled by persons of one political party, mostly, who want to control the flow of spice. They want gamers to all think the same way, and if they don't, they need to be purged. And it starts with the most extreme people. That's usually how these things start. And then they sort of work their way to center, and the next thing you know, relatively normal people are being demonized. And we saw this in comics, we see it in anime. Now we've got a lot of people that are decrying anime fans, even mainstream media, even major media outlets. That's a whole nother video, but I'm getting really tired of anime being linked to fascism and all this other nonsense. But this, this is like an article out of 2015. Or 1984. This was put on my radar by Raging Golden Eagle, who has a YouTube channel. You should go out, check out his YouTube channel. But yeah, Electronic Arts is teaming up with the ADL to enforce social justice in gaming. These organizations take ordinary behavior online, say it's endemic examples of the far right, and then advocate that they must gain control of the video game industry. Again, we're seeing the same thing in comics. We've definitely seen the same thing in tabletop. So what's concerning about this is that they're not just looking to purge problematic people from the industry, but they're looking to profile gamers by their social media. This is legitimately scary, right? We're going to talk about this, but the original article I think came from the post Millennial, and I'm going to go out to Niche Gamer and talk about that too. But there are multiple organizations. There's one called Good Gaming, and they said that they're writing that its job is to analyze how right-wing alternative actors are increasingly trying to foment a misanthropic atmosphere on gaming platforms. Have you met gamers? I mean, are these people actually seriously? I've literally have been gaming since freaking Space Invaders. Okay, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Grew up with Nintendo, grew up with Sega, grew up with PlayStation 1. And I went through all of that. Used to read EGM religiously every month. I have like 12 years worth of EGM magazines in the garage, actually. Have you met gamers? They're a pretty tough bunch. And this is just asking for trouble. Good Gaming writes its job is to analyze how right-wing alternative actors are trying to foment a misanthropic atmosphere on gaming platforms. They have a problem with right-wingers enjoying space on Steam, for example. Social media posts show their plan is a propaganda war that they want to educate young people to recognize hate online and push back against right-wing ideals. Well, see, that's the thing. And that's what I talked about. I said the road to hell is paved with good intentions. On paper, it sounds good to be like, yeah, gaming should be for everybody. Let's be very inclusive. Let's make sure that we don't have, racists and misogynists and terrible people gaming. But anything you say or do or post, even on social media, could be used against you to paint you as being a bad actor. And who are we to police who is allowed to game? But you've got the major gaming companies now coming into it and being like, yeah, let's police gamers. Let's make sure that only the right kinds of people are playing the right kinds of games. Lunar Archivist, who I recommend following on Twitter, said that there's a hashtag EA War Against Gamers Translations Part 1, Gaming Culture, Projects to Strengthen Digital Civil Society. This sounds like engineering, right? It's transparently announcing that EA is supporting projects intended to profile gamers for right-wing sentiments and turn them into ideologues and activists. They're basically trying to go through and identify and convert people that they think are problematic. I think this is kind of funny, though. When it comes to this, one thing should be made clear. Anger and hatred have no place in digital gaming culture. Again, have you met gamers? Have you met gamers? It's all about the anger. It's all about the rage. In this article, I present 2 projects that want to reinforce exactly that. And I think this is kind of, even ties into the kinds of games that we're seeing. The kinds of games that are being decried. Overly violent games now are making way for like farming simulators and that sort of like non-threatening gaming. And I think that there's space for everybody, for every kind of game. But they're trying to pull the teeth out. I mean, again, under the guise of this is a good thing. It's good to get rid of. I mean, so if you swear at somebody because they fucked up in a game, or they're just a pain in the ass, you're a Yahtzee. Is that what this is? What this is saying? The goal of good gaming, well-played democracy, is to address various facets of group-related misanthropy together with players from different networks. To be sure, the vast majority of gamers reject sexist, racist, and anti-Semitic attitudes. That is actually true. However, the Good Gaming Project sees the underrepresentation of a loud and decisive stance against misanthropy both in video games and its respected communities. This is why campaigns are being developed that, in cooperation with passionate fans of gaming culture, meant to convey a clear message. We're for a strong digital civil society in gaming. So we're talking what about a cultural revolution in gaming? We're talking about a society. Who's going to be in charge of that? Well, these guys. Digital games are increasingly daring to address socially relevant issues. They often tell stories that position themselves against racism and stand for diversity and sexual variety. However, the fact that this is not always the case, and communities often lack a clear stance on when it comes to other players being subject to sexist or racist insults, is the other side of the coin. So you're not allowed to trash talk people anymore. Again, have you met gamers? This is not going to go well. But this is the Good Gaming Project. No Pixels for Fascists is another one. It's a far-left grassroots anti-fascist organization made up of websites, media figures, news organizations, research groups, and game studios. So in other words, a lot of these people were in cahoots together, which was kind of one of the complaints of Gamergate, as I understand it. Now, I was not involved in Gamergate. I didn't even know Gamergate was a thing until like 2 years ago. But it does seem like all the politics creeping into video games. We've seen this in comics to a lesser extent. We're seeing it for sure in movies. And, basically these studios, publishers, they understand how much weight their games have, especially the AAA studios, and they want to form opinions with gaming. I mean, the thing about activists is any platform that they can commandeer to use to, push public opinion, to steer discourse in the direction that they want it to be steered in, that they can use for political revolution, they will use it. And gaming is the biggest thing in entertainment right now, especially with the lockdown, especially with movies being out of the theater. So gaming is a prime target for people who are all about the revolution. They want the revolution. Viva la revolution. They're going to use gaming for that. Niche Gamer has a breakdown of this. It's a very long article, actually, on Post Millennial. There's Pepe. Remember Pepe? Well, he's a hate symbol now, I guess, or something. He used to be a funny meme. And he's very 2015, isn't he? Like, everybody's going on about these old memes now. It's like these people are living in 2015, and they're trying to reignite a lot of these conflicts and discussions and whatever. And I think it's because it's an election year. It's kind of crazy to go out to Twitter. I'm like, what year is it again? Other than the pandemic, it feels like it's 2015 all over again. Niche Gamer, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, and more joining the ADL to push social justice and combat right-wing extremism in gaming. Electronic Arts and other big gaming or tech companies have teamed up with the Anti-Defamation League to combat purported right-wing extremism and push social justice within gaming, because they still blame 4chan and the gamers and the Gamergaters for getting Trump in office. I think that's not realizing that statistically, there are very few people who would, fit into 4chan and Gamergate and all of that. It was the general public that elected Trump. They don't want to hear that, though. It's very easy to just, find a demon. Find a demon. Both EA and the ADL are pledging to fight right-wing extremism in gaming with a new proclamation via the German branch of EA and their PR director, Martin Lorber, earlier this year. Electronic Arts Germany and the German government, this is so ironic, but it isn't, that they want to police your thoughts there in Germany. Electronic Arts Germany and the German government are teaming up with Good Gaming, Well Played Democracy, and No Pixels for Fascists to reportedly prevent gamers from being radicalized into neo-Nazis. But their tactics kind of sound like something that those Yahtzees would use. We're the good guys, honest, just make sure that you rat out your neighbors, and we're going to watch you and make sure that you say and do all the right things. When looking at the folks behind these groups, it becomes clear this is a veiled attempt at stifling what their staff perceive as inappropriate. Good Gaming is supported by an activist group headed by a former Stasi secret police informant. They got in trouble recently for sending brochures to German schools claiming a girl's family is right-wing if she wears dresses or does chores at home. Okay. No Pixels co-founders are both Pascal Wagner and Oriella Brodenberg, both big proponents of the common myth that video games have a widespread radicalization or right-wing problem, or that video games are exclusionary. My grandmother, I'm going to tell you the truth. My grandmother played Tetris, Pac-Man, and Super Mario Brothers on my NES back in the day. She did when she was in her 60s and 70s. Brandenburg noted recently that gamers are typically anti-diversity and right-wing, full of toxic nerd masculinity in their treehouse. God, I'm so tired of this shit. I am so tired of this shit. Toxic nerd, toxic males. Let's kick them out of their treehouse and take it for ourselves. And then we get to be the gatekeepers. And then we'll fight amongst each other and start kicking each other out of the treehouse. It becomes like Survivor at that point, doesn't it? It's like what you want to talk about being exclusionary? That's what this whole thing, whenever these kinds of initiatives happen, they kick out all the enemies that they can agree upon, all the toxic people, right? And then they take over the treehouse, and then they start attacking each other until you only have like a handful of people left. And then the industry just collapses because there's not enough people in the industry to make it sustainable. Again, we're seeing this in comic books right now. We're seeing it to some degree in tabletop gaming too. Good Gaming notes that their goal is to analyze how right-wing alternative actors are increasingly trying to, yes, the man babies. The nonprofit Games for Change revealed their advisory board recently. It includes, once again, Anti-Defamation League, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, and more. Their goal is to create a more diverse, inclusive, and positive online environment for youth while also fighting hate speech and other forms of toxicity. Again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't think you should be a racist or a sexist. I do believe that gaming is for everybody. But I think that we have people coming into gaming and coming into any kind of hobby, proudly stating that they're here to get rid of the toxic males and the Yahtzees and all these problematic people. And you have to wonder if they were ever really a fan of the hobby to begin with, or they just want to police the hobby for social justice. And that is, we're seeing this more and more and more. It's like you don't even care about the hobby. You don't care if it burns to the ground. You just want the platform to spout your political views. Your politics are more important to you than the video games, than the comic books, than the tabletop games, than the anime. And they can't really control anime, so they're going to try to demonize it. And that might be another video. There's some other weird shit going on with anime right now. But this is going to be a problem for a lot of people. They added no systemic work at scale has been done to understand, document, and synthesize anti-racism, anti-hate and harassment, anti-toxicity, and pro-social efforts across gaming communities. This basically echoes the same mantra as No Pixels. Games for Change published their latest brochure, which suggests that gaming culture is exclusionary and discriminatory, reproducing and encoding systems of bias and inequality that pervade society as a whole. This sounds like a college paper. This doesn't sound like God. Their goal is to use gamers and video games as important and potentially powerful tools for achieving broader goals of social justice. There we go. Political activists that want to commandeer a popular platform and use it to push their political ideology. Now, are people going to put up with this shit? I don't know. Are they going to have a choice but to put up with this shit? Because it looks like all the major game companies are involved. And if you push back and say, hey, this might be going a little too far, guys, then they're going to call you a Yahtzee. They're going to say that you're okay with racism and sexism, that you're an awful person. You must be a right-winger. You must be a gamergator. You must be some sort of awful thing because you're not on board with the revolution. So what's going to happen, I think, knowing gamers, is that the companies that support this, if they continue to push it and be pushy, are going to lose massive, massive sales. They're not going to be supported. People are going to go to Japan. And I kind of wonder if this isn't part of the reason why we're seeing, Sony especially banning and censoring Japanese games, which is so ironic given it's Sony. But they're trying to force everybody to like games like The Last of Us Part 2. That has it was promoted basically for its social messaging. And that's what they're saying. They're saying we want the audience, we want the platform because they're a captive audience. And now we're gonna force our politics, and we're gonna force people to play games that espouse our politics. And if they don't, we're gonna profile them and demonize them and call them alt-right and all these other nasty names until we chase them out of the industry. And then we have the clubhouse, we have the treehouse, and the gaming industry looks like what we think it should look like. This isn't going to go well, just so you know. I mean, whoever's backing it, this is not going to go well. Gamers push back, they push back hard, and people are going to push into, one, they're going to support companies that don't support initiatives like this, because it's very dangerous. You can find a Nazi behind every tree if you're looking for one. And that's what's going to happen here. And people are going to go to alternatives. They're going to go to companies that are not pushing politics. They're going to go to independent developers. They're going to, back whoever isn't calling them awful people. We've seen this before. It's happened before. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. It doesn't matter how many big companies you get involved. People are going to reject all of it. And they're going to go create their own entertainment industry. Video games, they endure. Even during the crash, we had all these indie developers pop up doing computer games, whatever. All it's going to take is a handful of people with the right connections. They'll go maybe, launch another console. People go do more, gaming on PC, independent games. People go back kind of like they're doing with movies now. They'll go back and revisit old games. They won't buy new games. But there will be financial consequences for sure. These companies, God, this is so stupid. This is just, like you are asking to lose money. You're just begging to lose money, and to put this out there like that, knowing gamers, you're probably going to go broke. You're probably going to go broke. And I would tell you to learn to code, but most of you already know how, right? Because you're working in games. Anyway, very interesting situation. Going to keep an eye on this. I think we're looking at another round potentially of Gamergate, or maybe it never really ended. Maybe just everybody was laying low and they were trying to find another way around. I don't know, but gamers are not going to have it. I can tell you that with 125% certainty. They're not going to put up with this. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.